Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about Synology versus QNAP for photo and video editing. So, you content creators out there that deal with photo and video editing in a big way, whether it's Adobe Premiere and Photoshop or lower scale stuff such as Paint.net and Movie Maker, a lot of you are cottoning on to the idea of using a NAS for photo and video editing, whether it is just as a backup with the potential to edit your files on directly, or you are looking for a solid, robust, RAID-enabled NAS solution that lets you edit your stuff remotely on that NAS and all the time backing up and working with. A NAS as a photo video editing tool is a very good thing indeed, but there's a few factors you have to bear in mind before going down this route. First and foremost, speed. Most network connectivity in most homes and low-level businesses is 1 GBE. That's 1 gigabit per second, 100 megabytes effectively. That means that if you're accessing the NAS either directly via LAN, so that's a LAN cable from your computer or Mac to the NAS, or via the network, so that's all the devices that share the same Wi-Fi to keep it caveman. If you are on the same network, the best you're going to get is 100 megs per second. And in real terms, once you're dealing with big files that surpass 25 to 30 megabytes, you are going to see some lag, and often it can make photo and video editing software start to crash. So when we are talking today about video editing on a photo, editing photos and video on a Synology or QNAP NAS, it is definitely worth bearing in mind that the NAS that you go for is going to have a way to exceed that 100 megs barrier, and that's why these two brands are definitely out there as front runners. And another thing, just before we continue, no doubt you've heard about brands like WD and Drobo. Great brands, don't get me wrong, and they do produce very solid products. But in terms of photo video editing, you don't just need good hardware, you need good software too. And that's something both of those brands do not deliver to you in the world of NAS. Which leads me on to my second point, DAS v NAS, because so many of you out there love the idea of editing on a NAS, but what you don't realise is you don't need a NAS. You need a DAS, a direct attached storage device, not a NAS, a network attached storage device. If it's just you accessing this device for photo and video editing, and you use it, you're going to use it as backing up, and it's still only one device, one PC, one Mac, and this device, you don't need a NAS, because your chances are you're doing this and you're not using a bunch of other devices, and all the features and functionality of a NAS will be wasted on you. And to get the kind of speed that DAS give you, such as USB 3, which is 5 gigabits per second, 5 times that of LAN, or Thunderbolt at 10, 20 or 40 gigabits per second, you'll have to spend loads to get that kind of speed out of a NAS. So before you invest in a NAS for photo video editing as a content creator, make sure a NAS is what you need and not a DAS. And now my third point is to do with hardware compatibility. Now, file systems are important. When you buy a NAS, generally the file systems inside will be compatible with both Windows and Mac systems. But once you start dealing with certain programs that use things like NLE, non-linear editing, or have a certain partition way and they need folder structure to be laid out in a certain way for that editing software to work with the NAS, you need to know that the NAS you're utilizing supports them. Now, both QNAP and Synology do support multiple file types, file systems, but Synology does arrive with BTRFS, which is a great, more lightweight file system, which in turn has background self-healing of files and integrity checks, something the QNAP can do but uses a bit more system resources for. And if these sound like things that you're interested in, the Synology may well be of interest to you right now. Now, both Synology and QNAP supply the following. They supply robust RAID-enabled storage devices, which support RAID 0, RAID 1, RAID 10, RAID 5, RAID 6, all of these different RAID levels. Check out my RAID video. Are very useful in photo video editing to ensure that you're protected from a hard drive failure. Because remember, a NAS isn't necessarily a backup, and I'm rambling a bit here, I'm aware of that, but hold on with me. A NAS, the minute you send lots of files to it from, say, a phone and a laptop or whatever, and you're sending files and backing it up, the minute you delete even one file from one of those two devices that you sent to the NAS isn't a backup anymore. It holds the only copy of some of those files the minute you send them to the NAS and then delete stuff from your phone, your laptop, your whatever to make space. It's not a backup anymore because it's just one copy now of that file. And NAS has RAID protection, but RAID isn't a backup. It's a safety net in the event of a hard drive breaking. But if multiple drives break, you're screwed. If someone nicks the NAS, you're screwed. If you spill coffee on the NAS, you're screwed. So always remember, one, NAS isn't a backup, and two, if you are going to start deleting files off other devices and you're still editing on the NAS, have a USB backup or something on that NAS, or a local backup, or a cloud backup. Okay? But for now, that's pretty much the point on those, and both Synology and QNAP will arrive with the ability to have cloud migration with a third-party cloud, USB backups, localized backups, all that kind of stuff. It's all supported. Now, going back to that point of speed, this is where you're going to see a big difference between these two brands. Now, Synology has 1 GBE on most of it, on almost all of its NAS, but there are numerous NAS devices in their lineup that support link aggregation. That is multiple LAN ports on the rear that you can connect multiple Ethernet ports to cables to your internet cable, and then run them directly into a smart switch, which can then disperse to other devices, or directly into your PC or Mac system. The result is, for every one of those cables, 1 GBE, 2 GBE, 3 GBE, 4 GBE. And that means 100, 200, 300, 400, depending on the media inside. So again, that's one thing Synology offers you. On top of that, they have PCIe enabled NASes, so that's a slot where you can stick an upgrade card that will add 10 GBE. 10 times normal Ethernet speed, and with this you can edit very, very well indeed, with speeds of well over 1,000 megabytes per second in terms of read and write. So do bear that in mind. Again, it will center on the media you put inside in the right RAID, but that's for another video. Now, Synology, although they support 10 GBE on a number of their NASes, and if you have multiple 10 GBE ports, you could link aggregate 10, 20, 30, 40, 100 megs per second. But even though they support 10 GBE, not many of their NASes actually arrive with 10 gigabit Ethernet. They've always kept it slightly at arm's length, so although you can add 10 GBE, they make you go out of your way to install it yourself, and if you're using a Thunderbolt system, you will have to get a Thunderbolt to 10 GBE adapter, such as the Sonnet Solo 10G, the Akitio 10G, or the QNA Thunderbolt to 10 GBE adapter. But these will allow you to edit over 10 GBE on a NAS, which is great. Now, QNAP has all those things. Everything I just said there, QNAP has it. But QNAP has one extra thing in its itinerary. It has Thunderbolt. QNAP was the first and still currently only brand, I'm not counting that horrible QSAM thing, are the only brand to have a decent Thunderbolt NAS, Thunderbolt 2 and 3. And that means that you can connect directly with the NAS via Thunderbolt 2 or 3 at 20 or 40 gigabits per second, directly from your PC or Mac system. Bunk, plug it in, and you can interact with that NAS. Now, it is Thunderbolt over IP, so the protocol, Internet Protocol IP, is slower than that of traditional Thunderbolt, but not that much slower. You're still going to get 1200, 1300, 1400, and in some cases 1800 megabytes per second based on the RAID and the SSD media you put inside. So if that sounds like something you're into, you've got to go for a QNAP straight away, because the best you're ever going to get from the Synology is a Synology such as the 3617XS, or some of the rack mounts such as the FS40, and that NAS has got multiple slots for 10 GBE, and you could have 4 10 GBE slots, 10 GBE ports, link aggregated together, but then you've still got to add 4 ports on your editing machine, and it's very complex and nowhere near as straightforward as Thunderbolt 3 work. So if 10 GBE is important to you, and you want seamless, easy setup, Synology is going to be interesting to you, but you're going to have to pay more to get that level of access. QNAP give you that at a lower price. There's a little bit of filling out, and I've learned about jumbo frame recently, something I should have done in my previous videos and I didn't, to speed up those processes between the NAS and your host machine. But when it comes to photo video editing, it's kind of going to come down to that hardware, because so many of you that already do this use your own proprietary software. You use your Adobes and your Premieres and your Final Cuts and that sort of thing. You're not that interested in the NAS software. If you're going to utilize a lot of the NAS software, that brings Synology right back into the fold. But when it comes to great hardware and great support of third-party apps, you're going to really struggle to beat QNAP there. I'm not saying Synology's no good, because they are damn good, but there's still no denying it. For that Thunderbolt connectivity, better range of 10 GBE support over SFP, as well as 20 GBE cards announced at CES that are affordable too. It's pretty much a no-brainer on the hardware stakes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you've got any questions or want to learn more, then do go into the link in the description, where there's the link to my top 3 photo and video editing NASes of 2018, and a link to the free advice section at NAS Compares, where I can help you and give you great impartial advice. I know that sounds arrogant, but it's true. That I hope will help you set up the best RAID storage for your needs. Thank you so much for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to do that, because this channel is supported by that sort of thing. And I will see you on the next video.